Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Gronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechvalley.com. Very good. And we have a very special guest with us, Bryan Clenahan. Did I say it right?
You did.
All right, very good. Then I get an A already. Well, Bryan, first of all, welcome to the Jewish View.
You should say he's the Albany County Legislator.
Albany County Legislator, very good. And first thing I always ask, where is your district that you represent? What are the boundaries?
I represent Westmere and Guilderland, which is basically around the mall west to 155 and 20. So basically that stretch of Western Ave and a few miles in on either side.
All right, it's a nice Jewish neighborhood. You have the Shabbos house there, I know. That's a SUNY campus.
That's just
outside
outside me, but I'm right on the border of that, yeah.
Yeah. So is Mary Lou Connolly is the county legislator for there? Is
Yes.
that right?
Yep.
Okay. So what's been your experience as a county legislator? You're there, what, 2 terms now? Or?
Yes, in the middle of my second term. I
Yeah.
started in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been fascinating. It's never boring. Sometimes you wish it were a little bit more boring, but I think we've done a lot of good stuff. I think we've worked on a lot of good issues. I think we've accomplished some good things. I've been proud of my work there. It's been interesting.
So those malls are in your territory?
Cross
like the Crossgates?
Crossgates.
Do you have any doing with that, or it's more like a business for the city? It wouldn't be really a county issue?
No, we talk with them and we tangle with them sometimes. The last time I spoke with them was involving some of the neighborhoods that are up on their northern border, some of the streets that are by the Price Chopper Plaza on Western Avenue.
So you know,
Crossgates.
like the traffic, what would be an issue?
The issue with that was Pyramid, who owns Crossgates, had owned several of those houses and rented them out to folks. Inexplicably, last year, they actually gave eviction notices to some of these folks.
This is on Gip Road?
It's close to
Rap-
Gip. It's
Rap Road, Gip Road? In that area there, though, right?
It's just east of Gip, really.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of by Westmere
Why
Fire.
are they, because they want to rebuild, expand their malls?
That was it. There's always been the concern of them expanding. That's been out there forever. There's been talk they wanted to build a hotel. I think they wanted to build a roller coaster at one point. You never know exactly what they're thinking. So they evicted these folks from these rental houses and didn't say what they were doing or if they had any plans or anything. And the problem is, between that neighborhood and a neighborhood just east that Pyramid owns several other of those properties, a lot of those houses that Pyramid owns have gone into disrepair. They've basically been boarded up. It's obviously
on purpose to knock them down, you mean, and to expand? You
You
really don't know what's...
Possibly. You never know where they're coming from, but I think that was a concern. And I think it'd be very unlikely that they could expand any further into the Guilderland area. People have too much concern about the traffic and the effects on the neighborhoods.
But once they board up the house, why can't they demolish it?
There was...
Do they have to get permission to demolish the property they own?
They did agree to demolish one of the houses that was in particularly bad shape, and the others, they have security going to take it out and make sure nobody's there or there's no problems, but they haven't demolished them yet. There was some talk they were going to re-rent those houses, and I think that would make the neighbors feel better that there was no other grand master plan. But, for the people back there, they've lived there for years. They put all kinds of money into their house. They've got a boarded up house next to them. It's obviously bad for the neighborhood. It's bad for their property values, and they don't know what Crossgates is up to. So, we're keeping an eye on them. They have done a better job in the last year maintaining the property. They mow the lawns. They've kept the houses that are now vacant in a little bit better shape. We'll keep an eye on it, but we have to make sure these property owners there don't get
I know
don't get in
from
a bad way.
Delmar, more than because I live in Delmar, it's more of a friction. On one hand, there's just a back and forth constantly that they're arguing because on one hand, well, it's an economic boom or jobs. On the other hand, they see more crime comes in, and therefore you're putting a strain on the, shoplifting. So therefore you're putting a strain on the police department. Then other people go, hey, I don't want the traffic here. I don't care about, well, I want more shopping. Well, I don't want the traffic going by my house. It's just this constant friction between different peoples and the arguments.
It's a tension. I think they do
Is
bring
that what you were saying was fun?
No, not particularly. No, the less tension, the better. I think obviously it does bring a lot of sales tax revenue, and it does bring in stores and restaurants for people in Westmere to go to pretty easily, and that's a great thing. I think Crossgates could at times be a better neighbor. The situation with these neighbors at the houses they rent is one example. I think you're absolutely right about the volume of things that the police have to face because of this, and it's not just the police, it's the courts too. Guilderland courts have something like 12,000 new cases every year, and a substantial number of the misdemeanors are mall-related, whether it's petty larceny or any other issues from the mall. So, We do see pretty good sales tax revenue from that, but it's not all free. There has to be increased police presence. There's an extra strain on our courts.
It's interesting, yeah. So I'm saying it's a give or take, it's like.
It is.
There's a plus and minus, I should say, probably like that, so.
It is.
For different people, for different things.
Now, you work in the state senate.
Yes.
How does your county ledge job, because it is a job, even though you're an elected official,
Yes.
Impact your job in the state senate?
It keeps me awfully busy.
Well, I'm just saying, how does it impact, when you see something on the county level that can't get passed, do you go to the Senate and say, hey, we should initiate this and we should make this, get this passed on a statewide level, or?
To some degree, I do my best to keep the jobs separate, because when I'm in the county, obviously I'm representing the people of Westmere and their interests without any question. And my day job in the Senate, I work for a senator from Staten Island. So there are common issues, but I do try to keep the two jobs as separate as possible. One good example, I think, where it did kind of intersect in my first term, I drafted a bill to ban the use of BPA, the chemical BPA, in baby bottles and sippy cups and things like that. And we were only the second county in New York State to do that. I think maybe the second municipality in all the United States to do that. And what we were able to do with that was create some pressure on other counties. A handful of other counties did similar legislation, and it eventually broke down the resistance to the legislation on the state level. So I think there is an opportunity to push things up and really use the county municipality as the democracy workshop to push issues on a state level.
Is that where your focus is, on the environment?
That's one of them.
Is that your passion? Is that what?
I am passionate about the environment.
Yeah.
And do we want to go into other issues?
What other
One of the
issues?
big things that we worked on this year was a ban of hydrofracking waste for any
Oh,
use in Albany
really?
County. And this is a really growing problem, because every hydrofracking well produces requires about 8 million gallons of water, which
Yeah.
comes back out of the ground. And the key with hydrofracking is the water, it's not just the pressure of the water that breaks up the shale and releases the natural gas, it's chemicals. And there's all kinds of chemicals and toxins and carcinogens in the water that goes into the ground. This is why a lot of people have concern about the groundwater and hydrofracking. If you take the use of hydrofracking waste, that raises the concerns even a step further, because what hydrofracking companies have been doing in the last few years is reaching out to municipalities to get rid of the waste that they're responsible for.
The waste is dirty water, you're saying?
It's dirty
That's what
water.
it is.
So the water goes into the
But
ground
it's
with
chemical laden.
right.
Yeah, that's what I mean by dirty water.
Well, it's double, really, because it goes into the ground with chemicals to break up the shale. It comes back out of the ground with the chemicals plus naturally occurring radioactive materials in the earth. So it's a pretty nasty compound that comes back out. Hydrofracking companies are responsible for this, and they want to get rid of it. So any number of municipalities out in western New York were contacted about using this hydrofracking brine, this post-product, as a road de-icer, as a cheaper substitute to using rock salt or road de-icer of different kinds.
Well, safer too, allegedly.
Yeah.
Than rock salt, because rock salt eats away at your car.
I can't buy that, because if you think of all the toxins and chemicals and radium, and mix that with the naturally occurring radioactive materials from the earth, you put that on the ground, it goes directly into the water source, goes directly in the ground soil, it has direct contact
No,
with
I'm
the
talking
people.
about it eroding the paint on the car. The rock salt erodes the paint on the car, rusts your muffler, rusts the underbelly of the car. That's what rock salt does, and that's what's commonly used for, along with, I think they're mixing it now with other asphalt and other things.
I think we've gotten away from the more corrosive rock salt, but if you think rock salt does that to cars, imagine what radioactive materials and carcinogens and
Don't put
cadmium
Coca-Cola
does to them.
on the paint finish on your car, because it'll erode the paint on your car, Coca-Cola. So, we put that inside our system, and, we're not dying.
I think the concern that I had, and the concern a lot of the environmental groups has, toxic materials on the ground, direct contact with the people, it's a terrible idea. And the legislature agreed, and I think most environmental experts have also agreed on that. The other thing that's being done with this hydrofracking waste is companies who are responsible for processing it, they're paying local sewer treatment plants to process it for them. Now, the real problem with that is not only does that also expose the workers and the county folks to these radioactive toxic materials, the particulate in the hydrofracking waste really damages the sewer equipment. So while some of these municipalities may receive money for processing this waste, it's destroying the sewer equipment. It's penny wise and pound foolish. So, looking at these and doing some research, and I spoke with several of the environmental groups who have been involved in this, some of the environmental groups who were involved in passing similar legislation in Westchester County and Suffolk County. I decided to put this forward as a good thing that we should do in Albany County, and I wanted to do it this summer as quickly as possible. with winter coming, so that it would not be a possibility that any of this toxic waste end up on our.
So you got this
grounds.
passed.
This passed in August.
So are you looking to pass it statewide?
I think statewide would be the best of all possibilities.
So did you talk to your senator, your boss, about it?
I have not. I know Senator Kachik, I believe, has a similar bill,
Yeah?
and she was actually pretty supportive, and her office was supportive of our effort in Albany County. Obviously, part of her district's in Albany County, so it was helpful. But yeah, I think the ultimate goal would be a statewide ban. But the best we can do is to make sure this does not happen in Albany County. And our goal was to make sure that Albany County never be a waste for, never be a dumping ground for hydrofracking waste.
Now, doesn't Senator Kachik have part of Guilderland or all of Guilderland?
Senator Kachik has all of Guilderland and all of the Albany County hill towns. It's
Right.
a funky district. It wraps around the city. It goes down
Right.
the Hudson Valley, down to
Right.
Ulster.
But I'm saying she's your senator.
She was my senator. Yeah.
So you could really have some impact there as a constituent, not only as another elected official,
I know she thinks her bill is important and it's a priority. I guess we'll see what happens this year. I'm not sure what the status of the similar bill in the Assembly is, but
Now, how do you deal with the triumvirate in the state Senate when you have the Democrats, the Republicans, and then you have the third independent Democratic conference?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're a lawyer, you're of counsel to Senator Savino, who's part of the IDC.
Yes.
How does that all fit in for you? I mean, you're walking a tightrope, or you just, whatever she tells you to do, you're just sort of holding your breath and making sure that you're not going to make the wrong move?
well, obviously I'm her counsel and I advise her, and
Yeah.
she's the boss. So I think I work closely with her and
It must
work
seem
on-
like it's a tense situation being in your situation. I don't know, but I'm just saying it feels like it might be a tense,
I don't really.
No?
There obviously has been some tension between some of the principals involved in this, but I think we have a lot of the same goals and a lot of the same
As whom?
independent Democrats and the Democrats. I think we share a lot
Oh.
of similar goals and a lot of similar issues. I will let Senator Savino, Senator Klein, Senator Carlucci, and Senator Valesky talk for themselves on this, but I think the concern they had in forming the Independent Democratic Conference was there was so much dysfunction in the Democratic Conference during the 2 years Democrats are in the majority, and not just dysfunction, there was corruption.
Just
there
for our
was,
viewers, and especially for me, who I'm a rabbi and not a reporter like Mark, just to explain a little bit what the independent Democrats and how
Well, there was
Senators working here.
I worked in the state Senate with the Democrats in 2007, 2008. And then 2009, they took control. They won a majority of the seats in the legislature. And then some of the Democratic legislators, senators, wanted to break away because they wanted, the minority members wanted more of a leadership role, and they had an agenda, and they wanted, so they sort of put a halt to the state Senate process for a few months. And they walked out, it really was a stalemate. And so and that sort of ended. And then these group of senators, 4 senators, really had a problem with this process, so they formed an independent Democratic conference.
So you're four of them.
These 4, and they voted to elect the Republicans and put the Republicans in control, because basically you need to have everyone. It was so close. The votes were so the majority was so close. It was 63 members, and there were 32 Democrats, 31 Republicans. That you really had to have the whole entire conference come together, and that was never going to happen. And we saw that was seen in 2009, where you knew that there's such a diversity of conservative Democrats, and you have liberal Democrats, and you have people on the abortion issue and on death penalty and on other issues who are totally on opposite ends of and nothing would get done if it was the Democrats were in control. Whereas so these 4 broke off, and there was a 5th for a little while, and then he got booted because there was corruption seeping into the IDC, the Independent Democratic Conference. And that was the guy who I worked for, Malcolm Smith, unfortunately.
Right.
And he used to lead the Democratic side of the Senate. So and he's in a bit of limbo right now. He doesn't want to resign his seat, even though he's been charged with a crime, and only charged. So these 4 Democrats
Was
voted.
more conservative leaning?
Well,
because they joined with
Senator
the
Valesky is more conservative leaning. He's from Syracuse, but certainly Senator Savino is very liberal. She's a union leader.
Senator Savino came up through the labor movement. She was
Yeah.
really one of the principals in forming the Working Families Party. So
Right. So
she
is
doesn't
a
feel
progressive.
better working with the Republicans. I mean, it's interesting.
Well, but the
They
other
always say politics is strange bedfellows.
well, it literally is, because Senator Klein, Jeff Klein, who's from the Bronx, is also liberal, but and this was in the paper, but him and Senator Savino have a personal relationship going aside, not just a professional relationship. And that was in the paper. I'm not speaking out of school here.
No, and just to be clear, these are two single people who
Right.
are dating.
That's
this
right.
is not
That's right.
nothing untoward.
That's
This is,
right. Nothing
two people with a
untoward,
tremendous
just-
number of shared common interests who
That's
are
right.
work together.
And then you have Senator Carlucci, who's a freshman senator from Rockland County, and he's sort of on a little bit more towards the conservative side, I would think. Moderate, but he's not.
I would call them moderate.
Does
Yeah.
political convenience that you're saying that your senator, even though liberal, would go with Republicans? Just a little bit compared to
Right, I mean, she had to, when they take the vote to vote for the Senate Majority Leader, yeah, she's got to hold her hand up and say, yeah, the Republican, and it's,
Well, not exactly. I think there's a difference between 2009 and 11. 2009, the Republicans still had a majority in the chamber, even though the IDC broke and did conference with them, or did not conference with them, did break away from the Democratic conference. 2011, going into the 2012,
Right.
2013, 2014 session, the arrangement is that Senator Skelos and Senator Klein share the leader positions, the president pro tem.
every
of
other
the
week
Senate.
or something.
Sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes a week, but right. So
Yeah,
it was
but they
not a.
should. But the point is that Senator Savino still had to hold up her hand and say, to this marriage between Senator Skelos and Senator Klein having dual
Interesting.
relationships. So
Interesting
you
politics.
can get liberal Democrats to still vote for Republican in leadership. which
Sure,
is
and I think
kind of
for Senator
interesting.
Savino, and I
Now, correct
been with
me
her
if
for
my
several years.
description wasn't right. Was my description on point? Was I off a little?
I don't know if I'd agree with all that. I think for Senator Savino, and I've worked with her. I've been her counsel for 5 years in January. So, and she's a woman of strong opinions and very strong character. So I never speak for her, but I will say that the opportunity to move issues important to her forward was key in her decision to do this. And I think a good example, probably the best example, is increasing the minimum wage last year, which is as a
Because
progressive.
once you're in the majority, you have a little bit more weight. You mean
Right.
to push your agenda.
Right,
bottom
she's chair of the Labor Committee, so the opportunity to push issues that are important to her through the Labor Committee and hopefully through the Senate, much like the minimum wage, was a very good one.
And here you have Democrats now chairing committees that Republicans appoint Democrats to chair committees, which was sort of.
Republicans don't appoint. I mean, Senator Klein and Senator Skelos share the power, so it's not Senator Skelos dishing this out. It's a power sharing agreement, and for example, they shared a committee chair with Senator Adams too, who was a Democrat, not part of the Independent Democratic Committee.
Yeah, who's now Brooklyn Borough
Who
President.
won't be with
That's
the
right.
Senate too much longer, but yes.
Okay,
But-
so do you find this an awkward or uncomfortable situation, or being a counsel, the law is the law, and you don't really have to get involved with what goes on the floor?
I don't find it uncomfortable. I think that from my point of view, for Senator Savino's point of view, we've been able to advocate a lot of things that are very important to her that I tend to agree with my own political leanings, and I think that it's worked reasonably well, and I think we've accomplished good things.
Okay,
And
good.
I anticipate doing so next year as well.
All right, let me go back to you being county. We sort of really
Let's
got
bring it
off.
back to the county.
Yeah, we got way off track here. The county legislature. You sponsored a bill that's called Local Law K. And why would they name these bills by letters?
I've always wondered that myself. You've got me there.
Why haven't you asked and wanted a answer? I mean, I asked this of
Well, I'm not
other
sure what
people.
difference it makes.
Well, it makes a difference in the way that a constituent or an average person in the public can understand what you're talking about.
I mean, whether
so
it's
for
local
example-
law A or local law 1, I think it's just a name.
it's not that. And look at the way the state legislature does it. State legislature says an act to amend the social services law in relation to ...
Right.
Why can't you follow the same? I mean, I don't see that. I just see local law. I look at the agenda. I see local law cast. What's that about? Why do I mean, it doesn't tell me right away. Or give it, like
Highway Act or something. You're saying.
Well, I can tell you the local laws that I've drafted and sponsored, we've tried to give them the name. The one I was talking about earlier was the hydrofracking waste ban.
Right.
I worked the one in 2009 about the BPA bottle ban was the BPA baby bottle bill. One thing we did in 2011 that I drafted was the animal abuser
that's
registry
the
law.
one. That's local law K.
That was K.
That
okay.
was K. Yeah,
Okay.
that was okay.
Right. So yeah, I think whenever I refer to it, I put it in my newsletter or the webpage or whatever, I think I refer to it as the animal abuser registry.
So talk about the animal abuse legislation and why you needed to pass that and get that done.
You know, it's funny. That's actually been kind of a big topic the last couple of months in Albany because of the arrest and now conviction of the plea agreement of, I think his name was Anthony Walker, who was the guy who abused those pit bulls down by the train tracks, and he actually has become the first person on the abuser registry. So that's been a big topic lately. Basically, the abuser registry said that anyone convicted of any kind of animal abuse law, any kind of animal abuse crime, as set out in the state agriculture and markets law, would go on a registry, an animal abuser registry, basically saying that they could not own, buy, adopt, acquire a pet in any way for 10 years. If that person had a second subsequent conviction of similar charges within those 10 years, he or she would go on the abuser registry for life and could not buy a pet in Albany County for the rest of their life.
And does like a pet shop know about this? Is how that works? A pet shop has to look it up before they send a pet poodle or whatever in.
Yes, we worked with the Mohawk Hudson animal shelter. They actually maintain the registry in coordination with the sheriff's office, but any pet store, any adoption agency, anyone transferring a pet is required to check the registry before they let the pet go.
So
to the
you
person.
just can't go into a pet store now and say, I want that animal, and give them $600 or $800 and leave?
Right.
Oh,
The
pets
store-
are more than that sometimes. I mean,
Yeah, no, the store is required to check the registry.
So
before
it's
they
like a
let that animal
gun
go.
thing where you got to have a background check. You got to have a background check for you to buy an animal.
Yeah, I suppose so. And I think, what we were looking at in doing this was this issue of animal abuse is so prevalent. There's so much.
Really, it is that much. That's what I was just going to add. Because, you hear about it once, you think there's 2 people a year or something. I guess maybe that hits the news service or whatever. But that's what I was just going to ask.
Well, he would say 2 is too many. Too many.
Probably
There is, and I think there's a problem. I think there's 2 levels of problem. I think many of these crimes, they've started to grab more attention now. Now they're being reported. I don't think that was always the case. I think it happened a lot more than we heard about. Secondly, I think a lot of people didn't report these crimes for whatever reason. But
they didn't think it's that important. It's just a dog or something like that.
There might have been some of that mentality, but I think really raising this issue, as has happened in the past several years, has meant a lot more crimes being reported and a lot more crimes being covered by the news media. And at the time, Albany County, there was one other county, I believe, in the country, again, Suffolk County, that had a similar registry. Ours was the toughest in the state. Mm-hmm. Nobody else had a 10-year ban for initial conviction, and nobody else had a lifetime ban.
Now,
after we passed it, several other counties amended theirs to reflect that same thing. But
now, I remember whether it was Bob Prentice or Jim Tedisco or Bob Riley, one of the, in that area, they've had some animal abuse legislation, anti-animal abuse legislation in the state legislature.
Right.
Is there anything on the books in the state about animal abuse, or did those bills not go anywhere? Or?
Tedisco's big bill that he worked on, and I don't
Buster's
recall,
Law?
was Buster's Law. I don't recall if his version was one that passed, but obviously it was the issue he championed. So that made a lot tougher. It expanded the list of crimes that have fallen under animal abuse and increased the penalties dramatically for that.
But it doesn't have a registry attached to it.
No, there has been some legislation since we passed ours introduced in the state, but it hasn't gone anywhere.
Well, just the Jewish view, so I have to push the Jewish view of animal. No, it's really important because, as much as people look at me, oh, you're old-fashioned, but I always say that Judaism, really, Orthodox Judaism, is not that's liberal, the most liberal and humane. Liberal, kind of, people say you're not the most liberal guy in the world, because Orthodox Judaism has a lot of rules. On the other hand, and that's why I try to tell people, exactly hand in hand, that there's 613 commandments. People know, like Hanukkah and, all right, the high holidays, blowing the shofar. Everybody knows those, or eating a matzah on Passover. But one of the commandments is Sar Bali Chaim in Hebrew, means painting an animal. And this is thousands of years ago. It's not the 21st century legislation. It's not like New Age. It's thousands of years old, that it's really a sin from the Torah, not just a custom or some nice thing, but it's a sin to abuse animals. So I just, like that, you talk about liberalism. So I say Judaism in many times is more liberal than on the cutting edge of many.
Can I ask you, how does that conflict with kaporos then?
Well, you don't hurt an animal. I mean, that's a lot of people, what Mark's bringing out, their idea. People would say, well, abusing animal, therefore I'm a vegetarian. I don't want to see them die.
Mm-hmm.
And, chicken soup is part of, I mean, whatever, all the meat. I'm not fun chicken soup. So that would be a contradiction to a lot of people. How do you why aren't you a vegetarian if that's the law? Mm-hmm. So again, you slaughter the animal, you don't cause them any pain. Right. That's a very, very important idea. And, you can use animals. And again, like what you were saying with the environment, there's many things. You don't chop down fruit trees. I mean, I could bring that out also. Mm. It's very, very cutting edge in that sense, that you don't abuse the environment. And they're not just customs. They're not New Age. They're like ancient. So that's what I'm just saying. In that sense, it's radical, because here you're saying, here you're a person on the cutting edge in the 21st century. Let's have stronger animal abuse. And here, thousands of years old, I'm bringing out to people, don't destroy the environment. These are relatively newer ideas. Don't hurt animals. So,
well, he's following that with not wanting to hurt the environment. And
right.
I wanted to just bring up in the last few minutes that we have, I like the audience to get to know our guests as a personal thing. So I see here from your Facebook page that you're 42.
Yes.
You did the math.
No,
okay.
I'm not above lying about that, but I guess you kind of blew my cover there.
I did, yes.
Well, I'm 29, so
there you go.
I guess I'll be the guy over here.
And you're single?
I'm single. I'm in a serious relationship.
Excellent.
With a fantastic woman.
Excellent. You won an award in 2011, the Labor Religion Coalition's Job with Justice Award.
Yes.
Didn't know this
Explain that
existed.
over here.
Labor Religion. Okay, so you're putting the two together. This is...
That was an interesting thing. It's an interesting organization. It's basically kind of whetting the idea of people of faith in standing up for basic rights, basic labor rights, basic rights to earn a living, basic rights to be treated humanely in your job. It's a good organization that has pushed a lot of important issues. They were involved, one of the things I worked on at the state level with Senator Sabina was the Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which we were the first in the country to pass that.
And
they were involved in that.
And you're a trustee of the and you're board member of the Irish American Heritage Museum?
I stepped down from the board. I'm on the board of advisors now, so I'm still involved, but not as a board member.
Head Start, Policy Council, let's see, Albany Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
Community Action Partnership.
The Head Start is
ACAP.
Head Start is part of ACAP.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a board member of Community Action Partnership.
Well, that's terrific. I like that group. ACAP is a very worthwhile group on a social service level.
They really do tremendous work. Tremendous work, and I think empowering people to lift themselves up.
And you're still with ACAP?
Yes.
Okay. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And let's see, you went to Middlebury College, you got your law degree from Albany Law School.
Yes.
And you're a lifelong resident of Albany County.
I am.
What's in your future?
In what sense?
Elected,
Politically or
elected
personally?
Office.
Well, I have 2 more years left on my legislature term. I have no idea if I'm going to run again.
You wanted to run for state assembly.
I was in that race briefly.
Yeah, but county executive maybe? You might want, how do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think Dan McCoy is doing?
I'm going to avoid a number grade, but I've had some concerns.
Okay.
I think one of the big issues, and I was going to try to work this way in, when Dan was a member of the county legislature, he was a big defender of keeping a county nursing home, and he's gone the other way on that, and I feel exactly the opposite. I think it's vital that we maintain the county nursing home because there just is no place for the people with the most serious medical conditions and people who can't afford private health care in a for-profit system.
And do you like this proposal of the Local Development Corporation, the LDC, and coming in with this administrator from Nassau County and, have confidence, you have hope?
I like it. Basically, I have some more questions about the details of the LDC and how it's going to work out. I've spoken with the gentleman from Nassau County multiple occasions. I know he's done an excellent job running NUMAC, the was it Nassau Medical
Right.
facility down there. And I think what I'm most pleased with is two things. He's very much committed to a public nursing home and a nursing home that takes PAW patients regardless of the severity of their needs and regardless of their ability to pay. And that's crucial. That's what our home for, I believe, 41 or maybe 42 years now has always stood for, and that has to continue.
Yeah.
There's so much for-profit health care. There's just no place for the people who have the greatest needs. And it's not just people who can't pay for private care. There are people there who could pay for private care, but their needs are so great they can't get into a private home, because that's how private homes make money. They don't take the patients with the most severe needs. They don't have the staff to take care of those patients. There will always be a place for a county facility, and that's why I've always stood strong about that. And I'm talking with the gentleman from Nassau County. He's also been a strong supporter of having a competent and strong workforce. And I think the workforce that we have at Albany County Nursing Home is very special. They are very much dedicated. They do tremendous work. They've done a great job in a home. And obviously the county nursing home is not the greatest physical facility, but the staff there is truly tremendous. And the idea that we may take those folks, and there's about, I think about 200 or so workers out there, and basically put them under a private for-profit system. These are good jobs. They're decent paying jobs. They're a pathway to the middle class for these folks. To put them in a private care system where they'd be lucky to make $10 an hour with no benefits, that's a disservice to them after all the hard work they've done on behalf of county residents. So,
Okay,
and I can see from your face that we're getting a cutoff.
Keep up the good work. And
Yeah, and Bryan, that you're a young person and there's a big future ahead of you. So
Thank you.
we give you a blessing that you should continue good work helping the community as you are, and rising and helping them even more as you go on.
Thank you, Rabbi. And
Yes, thanks
thank
for
you
being
for
on the
having me.
show.
I'd be delighted to come again.
Okay, we'll have you back.
Excellent.